All right, folks, what is going on? This is episode 511 of the First and Frame Rate Show. I am VF Baller. Over here, we talk about Georgia Southern and Atlanta Falcons football. And today, we're going to talk about both. I'm going to talk about the defense of Georgia Southern and all the things that have been changing with the defense. We're going to talk about what has happened last year and what is going on now up into the recruiting and transfer stage of the offseason. We're going to get into that because I feel that this defense is going to be something really, really serious. It's going to be a nasty push around, no nonsense defense. I hope I don't have to eat those words because the defense last year was not as good as we thought it to be. And only thing that we can do really is, go up from there. I mean, we had our moments, don't get me wrong, but we should get better with all the players that are coming in. Also, we're going to talk about Dean Pease. We're going to talk more defense. Dean Pease, the former defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, he announced his retirement the other day. I want to talk about a possible, replacement. Not necessarily putting any names out there, but people that I would want to see replace him. The type of defensive coordinator I would like to see replace him because there's not too many names out there that's really sticking out, to be honest. It's really not. So I don't know if they're going to go in-house or anything like that, but there's someone, in my opinion, or some organization that I think that we should pull from. And we'll talk about that before the show is over. If this is your first time here, welcome. I could be found on YouTube and Rumble. I'm also on Anchor, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. You can listen to the show at your leisure on the podcast side, or even on YouTube or Rumble. All you have to do is just make sure you subscribe to the channel, and whenever you feel you want to come back to episode 511, just go ahead and click that and listen. But with being on the podcast side of things, you're able to, basically download the show at your leisure and listen whenever you want to. I know some people actually take every episode from Monday through Friday and listen to them on a Saturday, all 5 episodes going into their Sunday afternoon or Sunday morning. And I think that's pretty neat. That was pretty cool that someone told me that they did that. So have at it. Hopefully you guys will enjoy the show. And if you've been a subscriber, I cannot thank you guys enough. You guys have been absolutely amazing. This show has also been brought to you by BetUS. Click that link down in the description if you want to put wagers down on any of the playoff games, any of NBA, MMA, esports. They're doing a little bit of everything over there. Put down $100, get 125% bet book bonus. It helps the show and it helps you as far as you, first of all, being responsible when you're putting down these wages. And hopefully you can double, triple, quadruple your money by putting down the right wage. So we'll see how all that goes. $100 gets you 125% bet book bonus. And that's all I can say. I mean, I think it's a really good deal. Let's go ahead and get into this. Georgia Southern bulks up on defense. I mean, they're bulking up on defense. And once again, shout out to the guys in the Discord. These guys, and I gave a shout out to Eagle 95, and he does a very good job of putting information out there. Maybe one day I could get him on the show where we can actually talk about the ins and outs of recruiting. How does it work? What, not necessarily knowing what he knows, but just the mechanics of how Georgia Southern recruiting works. Because I think it's very interesting because he has a lot of information that he puts out there, a lot of tidbits and things that pretty much come to fruition. Not just him, but everybody in the Discord do a phenomenal job of just having good dialogue, really good, conversations over there. I highly recommend you join the Discord. All the information is down in the description if you want to join the Discord. Like I said, if you like Georgia Southern athletics, if you like the whole situation with the Atlanta Falcons and what they're trying to do, we're talking about a little bit of everything over there. So check that out. But what I wanted to say is these guys at Georgia Southern, just coaching staff and everything, knowing what we know, and I mean, I'm not saying we know everything, but we know a good bit of stuff. We're watching this in real time because we obviously follow Georgia Southern. We're watching this in real time and watching guys that are actually end up being on, committing, transfers, actual guys that are coming out of high school. You look at the defensive side, we end up pulling, a couple of safeties, a couple of cornerbacks, a couple of linebackers. I mean, defensively, we can talk about offense all day because we already know what Coach Clay Helton brings to the table. I mean, you've seen what he did with Kyle Van Treese, and you've seen what he did with the rest of the offense. Throwing for over 3,000 yards, all these touchdowns was thrown I think he was like number 3 or number 4 in the country yards passing. I mean, it was phenomenal. But defensively, I talked about the Terrion Lees of the world coming from Texas A&M, the Demel Hickmans coming from ECU to Georgia Southern. I talked about, Cameron Williams a couple of weeks ago. And you turn around and we get T.J. Smith from Kansas State. I've seen the highlights on him. Another guy that looks absolutely phenomenal, along with Devon Gilmore. These are all transfers. We're up to 13 or 14 transfers, and half of them are on defense. I mean, we're going to be looking really nice. If these guys can stay healthy, like once again, like a Devon Ferguson, who was basically going to be the MAC defensive player of the year before he went down. And he already had accolades before then. When you look at these guys and you look at the other ones that we talked about, a month ago, a week ago, when you talk about the Braden Palmers of the world, the Kebasekas of the world. I mean, I even almost forgot about talking about him. Kebaseka was so like Jamari Whitehead. You got a lot of guys that are coming in that's going to be like really, really good. And one thing I didn't even know, and I'm seeing it now on 247sports.com, which is not necessarily up to date like I would like it to be. We have broke the top 100 in overall rank as far as commits. Now, I find that pretty cool because Georgia Southern in FBS is not really up there on the totem pole when it comes to actually rankings as far as recruiting, because you got so many other Power 5 schools that are out there. So many Power 5 schools. And when it comes to the group of 5, we're starting to be one of those teams that are like just hitting the cusp of being one of those top group of 5 teams when it comes to like actually recruiting. Hopefully we could be one of the top group of 5 teams that actually, put the talent on the field and show within our record. But nevertheless, when you look at all the defensive players that we're bringing in, and I think it's going to be a big, big improvement from last year. I mean, other guys I didn't even mention, Will Johnson, Matthew James. You got a lot of guys that are coming in. Jacob Ferguson's another one that's coming in. It just looks really good for the team, where last year we just was not where we needed to be when it comes to the defense. I mean, we had some moments, don't get me wrong. We had some pretty good moments where we made some real good stops at the right time. I mean, Appalachian State game comes to mind. A couple of other games come to mind where we actually did some things, but turn around, we was in a lot of shootouts. I mean, the Nebraska game was a shootout. The Appalachian State game was a shootout. Even the Georgia State game was a shootout. So I want us, and hopefully we get to a point where we will knock that down, where our defense actually, like, maybe, I know this college, so it's kind of weird. Hopefully we will give up maybe 20 to 25 points a game. I know that's going to be a tall task, but it's not as far-fetched as you think it is. You look at the Sun Belt as far as conference play, offensively, you're going to have the Coastal Carolinas that's going to try to put up numbers. Appalachian State always try to put up numbers. Troy, they put up numbers. You also have the Marshalls and the Old Dominions and the JMUs. You got some teams that's going to try to put up numbers, but then again, we was able to hold down a few of those teams with the defense we had already. It wasn't really that big of a shootout with those teams last year outside of the, like Georgia State, Appalachian State game. We didn't even play Troy. And but when you look at what you have with this defense, we should be able to hold a lot of teams down. I know our out-of-conference schedule is not the worst. I mean, we still have to play UAB. We still have to play the Citadel. We play Wisconsin, which I'm starting to. I'm gonna have to look at the Wisconsin game a little bit more, because I'm not saying I'm getting the we gonna beat Nebraska vibes with that game. I just haven't really watched Wisconsin the way I should, but Wisconsin has a lot of transfers coming in to that school. So it's going to be really interesting to see how we go up against that team. But I think with the changes that we have, especially on defense, I think we're going to still be able to give them a run for their money. I really believe that. The only game that really scares me still to this day is Marshall. I don't know why, but the Marshall game does scare me, and I want to, I want to win that game, but that's the gut feeling game that if we're going to have one loss on the season, that's going to be the game. So with that being said, defensively, I think we're going to be a little bit better where we're going to have to, not going to have to, that we're going to set precedent that we're going to be tackling better. We're going to cover better. We're going to have better gap assignments. This 4-2-5 defense is very exotic once you get the athletes that you want. You need a couple of linebackers, or you need a rotation of linebackers. Like I said, the ones that we already committed to, or that committed to us, you need some linebackers that can get all over the field within that space of the linebacker area who can play sideline to sideline. And look like we have picked up maybe about 4 or 5. Let me see. I want to make sure I get this right. 1, 2, 3. I think we only picked up 3. I'll take that back. Yeah, we only picked up 3 linebackers, but all 3 of these guys look like they could do something. You know, and it's also the guys that are already here. Those guys are going to be able to take a step forward in their implementation of implement what they've learned so far in 1 year. And unfortunately, we lost a couple of linebackers, Mizell Williams and Dedman. They both decided to go into the transfer portal. But the flip side of that, those 2 that we lost, we turned right back around and got Gilmore and Terrion Lee. So we are, reloading. We are rebuilding at the same time. And like I said, we're bulking up on defense. I mean, you look at these linebackers, 6'2", 223, both of them for Gilmore and Terrion Lee. You see Jamari Whitehead, another linebacker that's basically, let me see, where is it? There he is, 6'2", 210. And I've heard nothing but a lot of great things about this kid. So we're going to have a lot of movement going on around here. And don't forget, some of these edge rushers could play standing up. So when you have a Braden Palmer at 6'4", 205, or you have a couple other edge rushers at 6'6", 215, 6'3", 225, with Will Johnson and Matthew James, we're going to have some guys that can actually do some things. In the 4-2-5, we're going to have some safeties come down. And then you have Cameron Williams, that from the safety from Washington, 6', 205. He's going to be, moving around a little bit. So not only that you got all these guys, you also have to turn around and think about everyone else that we have that are already here that's going to be able to do some things as well. So defensively, we're looking pretty good right now. I know we talked about offense, the quarterbacks that are here, the receivers that's coming in. You got so many, you got so much talent coming to, so many players that are coming in that's going to be doing some things. Hopefully with Georgia Southern, we're going to be taking the next step, from, we already took one step from 3-9 to 6-7. We could jump from 6-7 to probably 8-4. I said 8-4 last year, but I think we could be. I think with the talent, I think we really, really can be able to do this, because now Coach Clay Helton is getting his players in, the ones that he wants to be here, the ones that Will Harris wants to be here, the guys that Brian Ellis want to be here. It's going to be really, really interesting. Also, before I get out of here and go to Dean Pease, our BJ Johnson is going to be the wide receivers coach for Georgia Southern. I think it's going to be really interesting bringing another Georgia Southern alum, a former Georgia Southern player, back into the mix. That's going to be really cool to see. He's going to show not only the wide receivers, but some guys on the offense who may not know what it's like to be a Georgia Southern Eagle. And a lot of these guys kind of got the gist of it. But when you get it from a former player, I know Kevin Whitley is still with us on the team. But when you really get it from those 2 type of guys, you really understand what it's like. Because a lot of the guys who came here last year that transferred over, they really started, or they committed to from high school, they really started to understand it. But it's going to continue to be implemented more when you have a guy like, BJ Johnson come in. So it's going to be really, really cool to see how that plays out. Last but not least, we're going to talk a little bit about Dean Pease. We know Dean Pease has retired from being a defensive coordinator for from the Atlanta Falcons. Well-deserved retirement, been around for 50 years of coaching. I'm surprised he stayed for the 2 years he did, because Coach Arthur Smith actually talked Dean Pease into coming back. And he did a pretty good job for the last 2 years. And with that being said, I am really thankful for him to come for being on the staff and teaching some of these guys the defense that he was trying to run. I think the defense did okay overall this season. I just think the offense just basically they basically wet the bed a lot. They did a lot of things that just was not it just did a lot of things that just was a bunch of head scratchers. First of all, with the quarterback situation, and once you get the quarterback that we wanted in with Desmond Ridder, I ain't gonna say we, but I wanted to see what he could do. I thought he did pretty good, overall. I just wanted to see, what he was capable of. And now it seems that we got the quarterback that we want. So with that being said, let's try to solidify this defense a little bit. And I don't know where we're going to go with this, with this defense. I don't know what's going to happen with the defensive coordinator, because my thing is, there's nobody out there that I could really think of that really would take the reins right really, really fast. I just don't know. Now I know I can't remember the guy's name who took the reins when Dean Pease went down at New Orleans. They're talking about him possibly picking up the slack from they're not picking up the slack, but picking up the job from Dean Pease. But there's one person or one team that I would like to see get poached, and hopefully we can get the services of Leslie Frazier for the Buffalo Bills. I don't want him as far as him being the defensive coordinator, but I want to find out who is under Leslie Frazier. Who's under him as far as defensive coach? I got a few names right here because I just pulled it up. I said I wasn't going to, pull up any names earlier, but the power of the internet has got me really thinking about this, and it got me pulling up some names. What about if we pull somebody from the staff from the Buffalo Bills? Because Leslie Frazier has done a phenomenal job as being the defensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. Now, these are some names that I want to talk about real quick. What about you got, where is he? I just saw him. The assistant defensive line assistant, Marcus West. You got him. I don't know how much experience he has, but I'm not against trying to get somebody like that. Jalen Finner, defensive quality control. I'm trying to see defensive backs. He's a defensive backs and passing game coordinator. I don't know about that. How about Bobby Babbage, the linebackers coach? I'm just wondering because, a lot of these guys have some type of, this linebackers coach has a lot of, he has a lot of experience, a lot. He has almost 15 years experience of being, a defensive assistant. He's been in a lot of places, even college. You know what? I'm gonna put it out here right now. I want Bobby Babbage as our defensive coordinator. Bobby, the linebackers coach for the Buffalo Bills. I want him, or I want let me see. Yeah, that's it. I want him. The linebackers coach for the Buffalo Bills. I think Bobby Babbage would be a really good look for Atlanta Falcons. He's been in the NFL for. I'm gonna talk about this guy a little bit longer. I'm gonna do another episode on this guy right here. I'm gonna start doing some highlights. I'll probably do this on the next episode. I want to talk about this guy here. I'm actually interested in this. Sorry I did this on the fly, but listen, I think Bobby Babbage would be really good for this team. I'm just looking at his credentials right now. I'm actually impressed. So we'll talk about this. Bobby Babbage, I'm really interested in this. If you haven't already, go look this guy up. I think he'll be pretty good. I'm not going to keep on with this. I'm just actually interested on that. If you like this commentary, hit the like button, share this podcast, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let me know what you guys think about the Georgia Southern defense. We're beefing up. Also, I'm going to end this episode on this. What about Bobby Babich as the defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons? I'm actually interested in this. I think this will be a pretty good look. Like he's done a pretty good job as the linebackers coach. I could be found on YouTube and Rumble, Anchor, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. Also, click the links down in the description if you want to join the Discord or support the channel. BetUS is also down there. Put down $100 and you'll get 125% BetBook bonus for your wages. I'm going to get out of here, guys. I think this is really interesting. I don't know why I didn't think about this till now, but I always thought the Buffalo Bills was the place that we should go to poach a team because their defense is actually pretty good. What about the linebackers coach, Bobby Babich? All right, y'all. I'm going to get out of here. Y'all take it easy. Y'all be blessed. Peace.